What Mercedes F1 just did is insane for Singapore Grand Prix. So we're going to be going through that in today's video, but before we get into it, make sure you like this video, and don't forget, if you want more Mercedes F1 content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hitting that red button down below. But let's get straight into today's story. So Mercedes are exploring concepts and admits Red Bull's side pods are the best today. Andrew Chauvelin admits Mercedes are not yet on a side pod concept for next season, as the upcoming small rule changes could have a big effect, swapping over car in airflow for ground effect aerodynamics. Formula One powers at the side expect to see 20 very similar cars on this year's grid, given how many hours were spent rule busting, as Ross Brawn called it. They got anything but, with the teams not even agreeing when it came to the side pod concept, with three notably different designs. Mercedes surprised the most. The team going with that has been dubbed the zero pod, as they have all eradicated the side pods. So I think they are going to be following, especially for the last couple of races when it comes to Red Bull and what they have done with the side pods. And it is a design that is said to have played a big role in the team's porpoising problems, and there's not much holding the floor down. That meant the team has had to cut away at the floor at reducing the bouncing, and in turn has cost them downforce. As you all know, Mercedes had such a big downforcing issue throughout this whole, kind of season, especially when it came to porpoising in general. And I think the bouncing problem was honestly really affecting their season, and which is one of the reasons why they are only currently third. But I think they can still pull it together with a couple more races left. I think it is still possible. Winless 16 races into the season, Mercedes are facing a conundrum. They can carry it over into 2023, where a few tweaks to the floor rules may work in their favor, or they can try a different concept such as Red Bull's race-winning downwash side pods. And I think they should do this very soon. They should definitely do this when it comes to the last couple of races, due to the fact that Lewis Hamilton's streak is still on the line right now, winning a race in every single season so far for about 15 to 18 plus years. So I think they can really keep that streak going and continue to keep it going as well. Now, Mercedes trackside engineering director Chauvelin says they have yet to make that call. I think the rules do change for next year. That's going to change how people are looking at developing their car, he said. You'd always say that the fastest car is the one that got the best concept. So, today that's going to be Red Bull. Where that goes into next year, it's difficult to say. Certainly, we as a team have not fixed what our car is going to look like. We're still exploring different concepts. The process will go on for some time, but we're just looking for what will give us the best development opportunity in those new regulations going forward, not only for next season, but for the last couple of races we have, especially with Singapore Grand Prix. So obviously there are some updates they are going to want to do, and I think they can make them just in time for the Singapore Grand Prix. There was this weekend where there was no race, so they do have a little bit of a elongated break that they can use to their advantage and work on the car a little bit more. Now, he continued to say, I'm not sure it's the best or the worst concept. I think it's just one part of the puzzle. This kind of side pod aspect, the invincible part. And for sure, if you develop your car around a certain concept, if you change it, it will be difficult to find the benefit of it. I think you have to be very open-minded on how you see the car and the concept of the car for the future. As Andrew mentioned, the rules are changing next year. I'm not sure that everyone will converge to one. It's more how you see the new rules, and also for the car for the future. Now, it's one part of it, and then how to make the floor around the car, the side pod, after a certain level, how to try to fix or try to direct the flow. Red Bull are leading the Constructors' Championship with 545 points, 139 up on Ferrari, with Mercedes a further 35 off the pace. Now, obviously, it is looking a lot, unlikely that Mercedes are actually going to win the Constructors. However, I still do think they have a chance against Ferrari and can take second place. If thing continues to get double podium when it comes to George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, I definitely think it is possible. And if they can knock out Ferrari and keep continuing to get double podium, or at least third or fourth, if you had Perez and Verstappen taking first and second, I think it will be very good for this team. Now, Mercedes chief hints they will steal Red Bull's design after the George Russell prediction like we talked about, and Mercedes have admitted they are still exploring different concepts. So we did talk about this a bit, but when it came to all of this, the actual true kind of inspiration inspiration was from George Russell. So Chauvelin's statement comes after several comments from Mercedes that suggest they are looking to Red Bull's system after George Russell admitted that there was nothing off the table after the Italian Grand Prix last weekend. When pushed on further the team would take inspiration from Red Bull or Ferrari cars, the Mercedes star accepted the team may need to change its philosophy, he explained. I think nothing's off the table. For sure, we have obviously a pretty unique design with the side pods. It's not off the cards that we will continue with that design. But it's equally not off the cards that we will totally change the philosophy. But ultimately, if we have the wide side pods or the narrow side pods, that isn't the performance differentiator. There's more to it. So I think there is really a lot to it when it comes to, what these racers want out of their cars and also what the engineers want out of their cars as well. So it's still a hot topic right now. Will they bring an update to Singapore? I think the reason why it's so important to bring a really huge update to Singapore is this may be their best chance of winning a race when it comes to Lewis Hamilton keeping that record. It really is his best opportunity. When it comes to the Singapore Grand Prix, the actual circuit, there's not too many straights. So Red Bull and also maybe even Ferrari are not going to be able to take advantage of straights. So, this is where the driver really has to depend on his driving skill to be able to get out of twists and turns very easily, exit properly, enter properly in turns, and I think that's going to play a huge aspect when it comes to the performance and also the results for the Singapore Grand Prix. Now on top of this, George Russell hails impact of Lewis Hamilton on expanding his skill set. From Mr. Saturday to Mr. Consistency, George Russell believes learning from Lewis Hamilton has allowed him to widen the envelope of his driving skills. A member of Mercedes Junior program since early 2017, Russell had often had the opportunity to interact with Hamilton and watch how the 7-time world champion works. But when Mercedes promoted him into Formula 1, it was with Williams. Although Russell still spent time testing for the Brackley squad and even raced for them at the 2020 Sakir Grand Prix when he filled in for Hamilton after the Brighton fell ill with COVID, stepping up to Mercedes after his 3-year apprenticeship with Williams, in which he earned the moniker Mr. Saturday due to his stellar qualifying performances. Russell has now become Mr. Consistency, and it definitely does show, finishing inside the top 5 in all but one Grand Prix, Silverstone, where he was caught up in the first lap crash. Russell sits P4 in the Drivers' Championship with 203 points, so he performed very well. Not only is he in the hunt for runner-up in the standings, just 16 points behind Charles Leclerc, but also beating his 7-time world champion teammate up Hamilton by 35 points. So he's honestly done such a great job when it comes to, really being consistent and being able to provide points for this team on a consistent basis. Russell says he has Hamilton to thank for that he's learning a great deal from the 37-year-old. Firstly, I feel so fortunate being teammates with Lewis because it has given me such a great opportunity to see his strengths and where I can learn from him, and he is definitely very strong in certain areas, said Russell. He's always very strong in low speed corners and under braking. He always has been very strong, and it's always been interesting to see his approach to certain issues and how he goes about it. There is no doubt that I've probably widened the envelope of my driving skills by being his teammate. There's not really a way to measure whether you are a better driver or not. There are so many factors that go into it. So I think it is really honestly insane to see, how much he has developed over time, and I think he is only getting better as time goes on. Now, speaking of teammates, ex-teammate Valtteri Bottas takes dig at Lewis Hamilton Mercedes ahead of Singapore Grand Prix. So I thought I'd add in this story because I thought it was honestly very juicy, and I know you guys love those juicy stories, but Valtteri Bottas has claimed there was less pressure at Alfa Romeo in an apparent swipe at Mercedes. The Finn also claimed his outfit was more of a racing team than the Silver Arrows, which he described as just a company. So there was a couple of shots made. Bottas was alongside Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes for 5 seasons, but struggled to match his teammate. Bottas came closest to beating Hamilton back in 2017, but could never mount a serious title challenge. He was replaced by George Russell for 2022 after the 24-year-old starred at Williams. Bottas' remarks come after he was asked what had changed between last seasons and this year from a driver's perspective. Speaking to the Italian version of motorsport.com, he said, "It is an environment with less pressure. The context in which I am is now less company and more racing team. But everyone's motivation is the same. It was very nice to start the season right away by scoring some points in Bahrain. I think that weekend gave an extra boost. The team understood that there would be other races where we would be able to finish in the top 10. So he added, then obviously the goals are different than those I had to reach last year, but in the end of the approach, it's the same. In 2021, the target was to win. Today, it's the top 10. Bottas started in Alfa Romeo during the opening phases of the season with 6 top 10 finishes from the first 7 races. Now, I do have to admit, even after all this story, I do think Valtteri Bottas was such a great driver. I honestly loved him when he was a part of the Mercedes team, and I honestly think it's great to see him still do well, even over at Aston Martin. Now, the Finn's best result of the season came with a P5 at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, as he kept his cool on a slippery surface. However, Bottas' performances have begun to tail off, and the team has struggled to match their previous form. He's failed to score since the Canadian Grand Prix in June and has retired from 3 of the 4 last races. However, Bottas has identified one area the team need to work on, or as he called for more staff to speed up production, he added. One of the problems we encountered is related to the production speed of different components. The team has taken this aspect very seriously. We are aware that we need more resources because we found ourselves having projects brought to the wind tunnel but not realized for lack of staff. Next year, we will have more staff available and will certainly be an important step for the team's growth. Now, this is something that is kind of pretty hard to justify due to the fact that Aston Martin is still a very young and also doesn't have the same budget that Mercedes have. So I think it is pretty hard, for Valtteri Bottas to go to a team like Mercedes where, pretty much everything is provided, money is really no option, than going to a team like Aston Martin where they're really nitpicking, where their budget is spent and every single dollar goes. So I think that is really important to see and important to really, hone down on. Now, I also did want to finish off talking about Toto Wolf, who actually lost a lot of time early in the year because of insufficient data. And he actually had said this. He said, we lack the tools, the simulations, and understanding and uncovering the problems that we created with the way the car has developed. So obviously, it hasn't been the greatest season for Mercedes, but I think they can pull it together and pull it back, especially due to the fact that there are only a couple races left. They really have nothing to lose, and I hope they have that mindset coming into not only the Singapore Grand Prix, but also the other races coming up. They don't have anything to lose. Anything can really happen. And I think if they are very smart with it, they can definitely come out with a great W. So, guys, let me know down in the comments what you think. Do you think it's possible? Can Mercedes win before the end of the season? So let me know. Thanks for watching, and peace.